here it is. Our friend Adriano Ferreira with this beautiful talk called Do Little Good and Get a Great Result. Very simplistic, right? And we think that we have to work really hard to get great results, climb the mountains, do all the crazy stuff that sometimes we like to say and think and do to become the person, to become the, let's say, worker of Christ or God. But he's saying right here, do little, right? But we want to hear more. What can we say about Adriano Ferreira? At first, we can definitely say that he's a good friend. He's a good person. And it's not that we look for other people to emphasize on what we already know, but we hear from other people. We know when we talk and with the talks that we go and other friends that we talk to, it's a consensus, let's say that way, that he's a good person. And that's why the Spiritist Society of Baltimore, as many other speakers, that there will be even himself in the future, if he's open to come and talk, we will be doing and making sure that we're bringing people that can enlighten us, that can bring some peace to our hearts. But Adriano Ferreira is the president and one of the founders of the Mount Vernon Spiritist Center in New York. He has been actively studying Spiritism for 9 years. And currently at the Mount Vernon Spiritist Center, he's one of the coordinators of Spiritist studies, Spiritist study groups, and is a counselor of their fraternal service meeting. And we say 9 years, and we think that it's a lot. But quite frankly, every time we talk to Adriano as well, it's an open book. Adriano, have you heard of this thing? Oh yeah, this you can find in this book, on that book, and this. I'm like, oh my God, I have to study more. We have to study more. So it's a great honor to have him here, and that's one of the reasons as well, for the knowledge that he has with this beautiful science, with the beautiful teachings that Spiritism brings to us. He also has spoken in many states, the tri-state area, and he's a great contributor to this beautiful science. One of the reminders that we get is that one of the great charity that we can do in Spiritism is to spread the science in itself. So it is a great honor for us to have him here tonight and partake in this beautiful talk. And I can go on talking more, but obviously we don't want to take the time. We'll then pass the word to Adriano so he can go ahead and do little good and get a great result.
Good evening, everyone. Just testing the microphone here. If it's working, that's good. It's a great honor for me to be here in the Spiritist Society of Baltimore. It's as well my family, spiritual family. We know each other here, many of you, for a long time, and I feel very happy and grateful first to God and the friends that invited me to come here and share a little bit with you. The little that I've been studying with Spiritism and as well my experience in this life. As Leo told, it's a very simple topic. It seems very simple, but as we go to study the topic in Spiritism, it's very profound and in a way very complex to understand the whole mechanism and how it involves our life, do good things that we translate to charity in the Gospel according to Spiritism. As we can see, and the Spirit enlightens us that the charity is the main foundation of Spiritism. So in that way, in every corner, I mean, in every question, in every phrase of Spiritism, we find charity, if we see it deeply. So what that we offer tonight is just a little bit that we can find in the Spiritism, that we can enlighten ourselves with this great charity that Spiritism brings to our lives. I ask permission to you to tell little stories. One of them it's about myself that I think is appropriate for the topic. And I ask your help as well. In some way you don't understand what I say, be it because of the English, or maybe because I didn't explain well, or in any way, you'll be helpful to ask question or complete something that is not very clear to you. All right? So many of you already know, but some of you don't know yet, that I'm from Brazil. Everyone know that I'm from Brazil, but I'm very in a far corner of Brazil, in the countryside. I was born in a farm, and I grew up in a farm until my 14 years, and then I moved to the city and so on. But it was we used to live very close to a small city, a little village, like 15,000 people at most. And we lived about 4 miles away from that city. And we used to study in that city. We'd go every day, just 4 miles, and study, elementary school and so on in that small city. But when I was about 9 to 10 years old, my mom assigned me a job. She gave me a job. That was very important to me. Until this day, I remember it, and I take a lot of teachings from it. Just when I came to know Spiritism, that I really understood what it means to me, and what it means, for other people, kind of comparing to my story. And we're going to see later here in some of the slides. But the story is that my mom gave me a job to sell milk on the city. But it was little milk, not much. It was about 11 liters. It will be about 2 gallons in American measurement. But I would use the liters here just because you're going to understand it, why I'm going to use the measurement liters. You know what liters means. So I would go every day to the city to study and bring this milk to sell it. My mom, you're going to sell it house by house, home by home, knocking on the door and offering the milk, and then I'll collect the money and give the money back to my mom most every day. And then I go to school and so on. You went through that about 4 years. When I'm 14 years old, I moved to the larger city and I stopped selling milk for my mom. But what was important for me in that job is that most every day, I would go to every door, and it was a poor neighborhood. The people didn't have much money. They had little money. They were retired old people, or some of them were younger, but they didn't have money. They used to buy 1 liter, at most 2. Sometimes, the most that I sold in one time was 4 liters, It was a very small quantity of milk to sell for one person, a family. And then, I would go here knock, you want to buy milk today? And some people say yes, some people say no. And I would go selling that for about 1 hour. During that time, I would sell that milk. That was important for me in that selling is that most every day with that 11, 10 liters of milk, I would share with my clients about 1 or 2 liters of milk. I would give them for free. How I did that? Because, I would come across someone that she or he wants just a half a liter, because he didn't have money to buy 1 liter, but he had a money to buy half of a liter for his, home, and then I would add up a quarter for him. I'll give to you, my sir, a little more for you. I would add up to that, and he will be very happy. Other one would buy just a liter, and then I'll give him a little more, maybe a quarter. And someone else, maybe other person down on the street, would buy, 2 liters, and then I will give a little, maybe just less than a quarter of the milk. And this went for years doing that. And I remember till this day the faces that they expressed when I just gave them a little bit that I had. You know, imagine in 11 liters I will give just 1 liter, or sometimes some days less than 1 liter I'll share with them among maybe 10 clients, 8 clients. I'll share, just will be, you know, a small quantity, but I would see how happy they felt, how significant was for them to receive just that little that I would give them. And I was a very young kid at that time, but I felt very happy to give them to. I didn't have any notion of charity at that time. I was just, you know, spontaneously I would give them, because my mom would have taught me to be charitable to other people. She always told me, you know, if you see someone hungry or need any water, please spend the money or do whatever you can to give them. Don't worry about the money, but you know, you have to give account of everything to me, but you know, whatever good thing that you can do, it doesn't matter. And then every day I give the money back to her, and she never asked me how much I have done, how much I have given. She never asked me, because she trusted me, you know, in the little that she assigned me that job. But there was one experience in midst of all those, you know, 4 years of experience selling the milk that marked me most. Was that there was, you know, those poor neighborhoods, especially in Brazil, the streets were unpaved, and there was a little hill, you know, the most of the houses were done from the government. They were almost all the same houses, you know, looked like all the same. And the streets were eroded by, you know, of heavy rains and some, you know, holes in the streets. So I would ride my bicycle down the road, a small bicycle with 1 gallon on each side of the, you know, I don't know what to call the handlebars. That was very funny. But down the road on the left, there was the last house of that road. I remember most of the faces of my clients till this day. 90% of them I remember to this day. And it was very interesting. That lady, she had 2 kids. And she used to buy me milk. Sometimes she bought 3 liters or sometimes 2. But she used to own me some milk. Most of my clients would buy and then they would pay later. But that one, at that day, she was on me maybe for 3 weeks already. It was not too much, but you know, for the quantity that I would sell was much. But that day I was going down the street and I saw she was in the door. Maybe she was watching for me to go by, and then maybe she would ask me for more milk. But she was already bought me a lot of milk, and she didn't pay, and I was going down and I saw her in the door, and I thought with myself, well, maybe she would ask me today and would pay me for that she owned me. I don't know. I was going down the hill and I saw her in the door with the kids, and I would go very close to her, and she didn't move at all to ask me to go by. And then I just felt a little, you know, attraction to go and offer her some milk, because she was a good client, by the way. And I got close and asked her, you want milk today? And she said, well, she got embarrassed because she already, you know, knew that she didn't have money to pay the milk that she would buy that day and the other ones. And then before she go on, I told her, you know what? It was the end of my, you know, I had just more 3 liters or so in my gallon, in my vessel of milk, and I told her, you know what, this 3 liters, it's yours. You know, the other clients I want to buy today, and I'm already late for my school, I wouldn't sell it anyway today. I will give it to you. And I saw that too. She had 2 kids on each side of her, and I saw in that kid that they looked like, you know, they were like, please give me the milk, we are kind of need the milk. I saw something, that they were asking for, but they were embarrassed for it. And and she accepted very happily. I saw in her face, it was bright at that moment. She smiled and yes, I'll accept it, very nice to you. And then I just put the milk for her, and she kind of, she didn't cry, but she got some tears of her eyes. And she told me that she was going through a very hard time, and she didn't have enough money to feed her children very well. And that milk would make a lot difference for her, not for her because she was looking for help, not for her herself, but for the kids. And that marked me very, very hard, very much and deep, because sometimes we just think that a little is not enough. We do enough, but sometimes for the little that we give it's big for other people. And we see across our relationship that we want to do big things, but we forget that little things as well makes a lot of difference. And that time I thought that it wouldn't make any difference for nobody. And I want to do big things, even that time. But I would say, well, what I can do, I just can, do little things. And I thought that wasn't important until I came to Spiritism, and I knew it deeply how charity really is. Because the Spiritist teaches us that doesn't matter the quantity of what we give, but the sentiment. The love that we put in our action, that's all that matters. In that time, in that small neighborhood, had very big house that they would do cheese. They would collect the milk from around the other farmers. And I would say to myself, well, if I own this, place here, would give milk for all those people here, but I didn't own that place. So I would have done that, but I didn't have. But I did what I could at that time, and it made difference for me today. And we're going to see how it is in Spiritism, how it works for us. Even the little things that we do, we collect great results to us, because the greater the greatest that receives ourselves, not the other person that receives itself. And we start here our slides with this excerpt from the Gospel according to Spiritism. That Saint Vincent de Paul says in this excerpt, chapter 13 of the Gospel according to Spiritism. This chapter is all about charity. And the way they put charity in that chapter, it's something amazing. That we go to science today, you're going to see it's revealing that, as we're going to see the next slides. He started that way. I hope my incarnate brothers and sisters on this planet will believe these friendly words. When I say it is within charity that you must seek peace of heart, contentment of the soul, and remedy for life's affliction. This underline is mine. It's not in the book. Just I want to emphasize these three words here. It says, it's through charity that we're going to reach, that we're going to find peace, contentment, joy, and remedy for our souls. And let us remember here that this book, that this message was given to humanity in 1961. It's a far back in time. And we come here. This is in 2000 something, and the article that the Stephen D. Post published. We're going to read something that we're going to see how it connected. In that time, it's been revealing to us that how charity works in our life. Giving and helping are wired into us, and our brains typically reward us with feelings of joy and satisfaction. Lux, it's a man, who is in 1991 surveyed thousands of volunteers across the United States, found that people who helped others reported better health than peers in their age group. I have more in the next slide, but rather reflect here on these findings. It's published in an article that Stephen published, and it is even in his book, The Hidden Gifts of Love and Doolittle, Why Good Things Happen to Good People, and other articles too throughout other journals. And we see here that in 1961, Saint Vincent de Paul tells us that is the remedy for our soul and it's the joy for our life. And it's saying here that even our brains, our body, feels joy and reward when we do little good for other people. See how the spirit world advanced in science today, that science is bringing us. It's evidence. It's been proved, by research, by measurements in our body, for the many mechanisms that we already know. And in here, in this survey, it's a better health than the other one that doesn't do that good, that share to other people. There we see how important it is and how the teachings of Spiritism is so updated and how they were, they knew what we need. And sometimes we it's not proved yet by science, this topic that sometimes we don't find yet in science, the mainstream science. Let us wait for science to prove it. But, imagine if it's in 1961, all the people that came across to this teaching here has waited for science until 2012, that is our 2012 or 13 way to do good. We will losing a lot of time waiting for something to be proved that we know within ourselves. We don't wait for science to be proved something. We experience it in our daily lives. It's just something else to reinforce that our spirit already feel. It's good for us to that Spiritism in some ways has been validated for the mainstream science, just to reinforce our need to do good, because it's something that we need. Because all of us need remedy for our souls. We need joy. So, and then here it's something that we can do to acquire all of this. And the research goes on. Helpers reported a distinct positive physical sensation associated with helping. Approximately half of the sample said they experienced a high feeling. 43% felt stronger and more energetic. 28% felt warm. 22% felt calmer and less depressed. 21% experienced greater feeling of self-worth, and 13% experienced fewer aches and pains. How many benefits we collect from doing good? Let us come back maybe 10 years ago or more than that. We wouldn't think that all doing good to people, whatever much we can do, would bring all those things to our life. And how many of us will look to do good things, share to others when we are in those situations? When we feel depressed, when we feel pain, when we feel down in some way. We have many different, problems in our daily lives. And we go looking for doctors here, doctors there, and they are very important to us. No doubt about it. But there are more than that. We see that through the last century, the numbers of doctors, they raised a lot different doctors. There's doctors, let's say dozens of different, doctors for the eyes. Just for the eye, there are many different, different docs, I'll say that way, to take care of this, to take care of that. It's specialized in some different parts of our body, different sickness that we have, illness in our have. And our illnesses that we see is decreasing, it's increasing by saying correctly. It's going every day we see there's more illnesses in ourselves and even in society. What's going on? We need to do something more than that. That we go to the roots of our illnesses, that the spirit, and one of the good things, that one of the cure that brings us is doing charity. That we exercise the virtues, like the Gospel according to the Spirit reveals to us, brings to us in the same chapter 13, that the root of all virtues, how pronounce it? Virtues? All the root of all virtues that we may evolve in, all that we had the root in charity, that reveals in many circumstances that we're going to see later on. And it's very profound when we go to study this. We just go in here, because our time is short. But if we can take just maybe a life just to study a chapter of this, we're going to see how much it's deep for us and how different we see it every day. We study and compare to our action and our experience. And we see here that the thing that I did in the past, protects me today. The little good that I did in that time I was a kid still protects me today. How protective it is. There's no vaccine that I know that protects us for so long as the doing good, doing charity does. And once again, science supports what we already know to be true. Adolescents who are given, particularly boys, have a reduced risk of depression and suicide. And given during the high school years, predicts good physical and mental health more than 50 years later, according to an ongoing study that begins in 1920s. See here? More than 50 years later, the things that we did good is still protecting us, still helping us. Like the little milk that I gave there, it still protects me maybe from depression. I'll maybe be suffering depression today if I didn't give that little good that stimulated me to do a little more when I grew up. And that research started in the 1920s and is still ongoing. It's just a long time, it's a long survey that helps us to understand the effect of charity and doing good. And we see here another very interesting thing that is for boys, for teenagers. We see, it's a fact that we have a very difficult time with teenagers in school, in families. We see it in fraternal counseling, in our Spiritist Center, how teenagers are going today, problems here and there. And we don't see much their parents stimulating them to do something good. Stephen Post says something very simple but very profound too. He says when he was a kid he felt so boring, something that his grandma said, go to the next door and ask if he needs something, she needs something, do something good to other people. And that still helps him today. And that was the therapeutic power that doing good helped him. And we don't see the parents, at least in my area, stimulating their kids to do good. Why? Because, we see the reality that we ourselves is not doing it for ourselves. we are not stimulating ourselves to reach out in different ways, do it morally or materially. There's a book called Redirect from the author, oh my God, it's just go out of my mind. I'll remember it. It's always I remember this this author, Redirect. He is from from Virginia. I'll remember for the end of the talk. I'll remember him for sure because always I remember him. He says in this book, Redirect. You're gonna Google, you're gonna see. There's only one book in there. He made research. He's a social psychologist, scientist in the area, and he researched the the ongoing projects to help teenagers go out of drugs, early pregnancy, and disturbed behaviors in school. All kinds of programs of the government offers to school or for the society. He researched and do statistics to see how it's working. And he come across a very important finding. He says the best and most effective program that schools in everywhere practice volunteering for the teenagers. That helps the most. Helps more getting out of drugs, early pregnancy, not getting into pregnancy too early, and many other disturbing behaviors that the kids or the teenagers get into. It's, they might be involved in doing something in community, for the hospitals, for in the shelter for animals, whatever. Volunteering the kids or the teenagers does it helping them more than other programs that he have researched across the nation. And he gives us a lot of example in this book. It's a Timothy D. Wilson. Yeah, I just come to my mind now. it's the author, Timothy D. Wilson. I just forgot now. I don't remember the university. You go come later. Just gonna see my time here. Man, the time goes fast. Yeah, I'll read this fast here. Today, the therapeutic treatment of helping others is embodied by many mental health communities, such as the International Center for Clubhouse Development, CCD, model, founded on the belief that recovery from serious mental illnesses should not be based on marginalizations of the sufferer, but instead must involve the whole person in a vital and culturally sensitive community. A clubhouse community offers respect, hope, mutually, and unlimited opportunity to access the same words of friendship, housing, education, employment, and the rest of society. I brought this slide here because it matched with the little story about this woman, and because we say here that this institution here takes care of the mental ill people and try to give them the same opportunities as the so-called normal people have. That will match with this lady here. I don't know, maybe you have heard about her. It's Mary Bouter. And she already dead. She lives in a spiritual world, but she died in 1998. But she's incredible. Her story is very important. I brought her book. Maybe we'll read something there at the end of the page. It's her biography. It's Mary Bouter, Nobody's Child. Sorry. Nobody's Child. That woman, she stayed in the mental hospital for 20 years as a patient in her beginning of her life as a patient. And at the end of her permanence in the hospital, she got so serious stage that nobody believed that she would recover in their life. She got from in that time experience to help the mental people. She at the end of her stage in the hospital, she tells in her book that was written from other author that she wouldn't feel any limbs or parts of her body. She would thought this podium here she wouldn't feel. And she would see that we see in Spiritists all the spirits, even the spirits that her mother that would persecuting her after death. She would come a very terrible obsession, we tell in Spiritist terminology, very hard obsession. I would go too much into her story, but just to bring us here an example. And she decided to get better. She told, I would go and get better. And she started doing little steps to get better. But one of those first steps she did was doing something in the hospital. She would mop the kitchen. She would just made her bed nice and comfortable. She would help here and there just to get a little price. And people would find she got even worse than we thought. She would mop in the kitchen. She would do this and she would do little things that she would do in the hospital. And then she got a little more control of herself, for her limbs and so on. And she asked another supervisor, was her friend, because in that mental hospital there are many wards, I would say wards, right? That's for the more severe problems, the less severe, and so on, the more simple ones. And she has to go to the ward that was the mental people that was hospitalized there would be open to go to the streets too. They would be there, but sometimes they would allow to go to the streets and so on. And she asked that she would go to their ward. And because the supervisor or her friend understood her plan to get better, allowed her to go to their ward. And then the first day that she went to that ward, all the nurses, most of the nurses and the patients said, we're going to give her 1 week to get back to the same ward because she is not able to stand by herself in that ward. And the first day, she went to the street and went to this chapel here, the Catholic chapel. And she went there and made a deep prayer to God and connecting to God, and said, if I get better as I want, I will devote my life for you, to help those people like me. I would promise to you. She got very deep faith in that prayer. And she got back to the hospital. And she started getting better. She started getting better. She started getting better. And then was the time she was much better. She got a little job in the hospital that would give for the recovered patients, and she worked in there. And soon later, she was discharged from the hospital. She rented an apartment for her and started going to school. She started going to school, and then she got cancer when she was doing college. And she got to surgery and two surgeries that delayed her study in the college. But she finished the college in psychology. And later on, she graduated in Harvard. And she got back to the same hospital that she was for 20 years to teach the nurses, the directors of that hospital, how to treat the patients. And she won the award of the woman, I think in 1980 something. One of the most important awards for women in New York. And even was a move about her that was made a long time ago. There are some videos of her in the YouTube. You can go in YouTube her. She was speaking. She got married, but her husband died 2 years later after she got. It was a painful life that she got through. Nobody believed her. But we see here that the start of her recovery was doing something. It was very small. And it was her devotion and her oath to devote her life for doing good for others. And God for sure gave her the opportunity because she knew. And she helped so much. She found institution around Boston area, in Massachusetts. It's a life example for us to see, how a single person that we give nothing sometimes can be something very powerful. And then we're going to see a little bit of this in this. I did a little diagram here to try to explain an idea. I don't know if you're going to understand that, but I try. I explained this many times, not with a diagram. Maybe I thought, no, now we're going to use a diagram. Maybe they would understand better. I put here this berry as a giver, in the way of doing charity to others, doing little good. We are like a berries. We are a giver. In this diagram here, the giver is us. This berry is us, or the person that intends to do good. And the other side here is the person in need. It's the person in need. It's the standard mode that we have to do charity. We feel that we are the berry. We feel that the one that is given to other, to the sick person, to the other person in need. It's that what we think. Let us give that person. Let us help that person, be it in a hospital, be it giving money, and so on. We just think that he is the receiver. That's what we give. That's what we think. And then we don't give so much importance as we should give to that person receiving our gift, I would say that way. But there's something more in this process that we should change, I think. That's the new perspective on doing charity and doing good to others. We turn the other person into the battery too. It's not just the person receiving, he is also better. He has something. He's very important, she is very important too. We are kind of more charged berry, I would say that way. And the other person is another berry too, but needs more charge that we would give her or him. And then we give her importance, because she or he is as well my brother and sister, equally as I am. The son of God, the daughter of God, and has something very nice as well to give. Like that Mary Balter. Maybe people thought that she wasn't any berry. She wouldn't give nothing back. Most of her nurses thought that they were the great berries. But she later proved wrong. She was not charged. It was almost time, but she recovered and would give back. And when we have to make sure that we must see the person in need, the receiver, as someone very important to us, someone we need. Someone is given us. Because it goes and should come back to in that process. It's when I say that the charity is complete. When we're just given, we say that we are giving but not receiving from the other person. The charity is just one way. It's not complete. The cycle should be complete, going back. And it goes that way when we make the person important to us. Even though the person is kind of receiving, but when she feels important, that we are not humiliating her, he, by our act, she feels that she is important or he is important to us. And she gives us back some vibration that we receive, so the cycles go complete. And that person turns out to be the receiver and the giver. And that when the charity is complete. She's the person himself or herself is not just the receiver. She's giving something to me back. She's giving me the opportunity to do charity, to do good. And that when we see, and then when we realize that the ultimately and primary source, the whole thing is God. The God, like charge our body for us to help others. And we help as well. God help other people by the people, He may, or I would say he or it, God, will help through nature too. Maybe in a farm, he or it will send a rain to grow the plant and so on. But mostly we've been helping one another because God, entrusted us with that. Someone that has more charge in the berry, more potentials, something more to give will help the other one. But the ultimately source, the primary source, the whole thing is God, but we perceive and realize that it's just when we see the other person equally as myself. He's in need, but I am in need too. It's when I say it's very difficult to understand that. Just an example, a day I was in the nursing home visiting the elderly people with some friends. And then I was with the handicapped woman. She was a very nice and happy woman. She showed that way, at least. And then I was with two friends at her side, and she asked us three, who are you? And then the lady, more outgoing, said, we are the volunteers that came here to do charity for you. Man, that moment I'm not that volunteer guy. I just felt it. I didn't say nothing, but I didn't came here to do just charity for you. I came home, I go back my home thinking that way. And I start thinking and reflecting in this moment, and I changed my paradigm. I was there not only to help her, I was in need of her. As we see here, charity is the source of our joy, the remedy for our soul, even for our body. So in that way, we need the other person. She or he is important for me to get better, to help me. So in that way, I'm not a volunteer in the way that the other person or the society or the institution is in need me. Like say, you know what, I wouldn't go today because, they could find another person, I'm doing good to them. It's like they are in need of me. The person, the institution is in need of me. But it's kind of contrary. I need them. When we realize that, I would say that, all the opportunities being given in volunteer and whatever place it is, even a Spiritist center, we're going to run to dispute it like a job. I need a job to survive. I'm sure that we are volunteer because we have free will to choose it. It's like breathing. We are volunteer to breathe because we can stop and we die. But we need to breathe. We need to eat. I am volunteer to eat, but I really need to eat. I have free will to stop eating. It's like charity. It's like doing good to others. I'm volunteer because I have the choice that, to do it. But I really need it. And it's when the other, it totally changes, gives importance to everything that goes around ourselves. I just go to the Spiritist center, the church, or to the nursing home because they are in need of me. I go because I need them. And they feel it. They feel it. They feel a vibration. They like, I'm not humiliated. I'm something. They see our faces. When we just go in to give, our minds is like away. We are not, in that vibration, giving the real importance. Because the Spirit itself has the aura, the perisprit that will capture our vibration of importance for her and for him, or whatever place we go. And that's what changes us. And that's what the diagram goes. And then we kind of go more in tune with the universe, with God itself, and we go more being channeled to God's helping others. That's why the greatest man and woman in the world, they are this great channel of God because they are giving importance to it, and God will be entrusting them more and more. Their battery never slows down, never dries up, because, we're just a battery. We need to be charged. And if we want to be charged, we need to give to be recharged. That's the source of God here. That's what my this diagram shows. I don't know if you got the picture here, but that's what the Spirit has been. Because Spirit just teaches us in the same chapter that when you go to give something, don't humiliate the other. And how you want to humiliate the other people or the institution itself, we don't value them for what they are. Just to see the time here, I can measure. And that's Albert Einstein. He said something very. Can somebody read for me, Daniel? If you use the microphone, somebody would help me.
A human being of the whole, called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Albert Einstein.
It's kind of the idea that Einstein expressed, long ago, that we see something apart from us. That person in the hospital, the nature is there. We sexualize, maybe another word, maybe we making departments in the universe here and there. I am separate. When we, in this movement of doing good, when we join other people, we are kind of connected. Her well-being is, or his well-being, it's my well-being too. Her health is my health too. We are connected. If she gets better, if he gets better, the universe, my planet gets better, and the society will, observe this energy, this health energy, and I will benefit by myself. And what happens was we separate things. Even we see in our society, the mechanism that we see, even in jobs, it's like we see here, just an example maybe that illustrate this. Let's say the physician, the doctor, physician, and he is doing his job, but sometimes the patient needs to express him or herself in such a way. He says, "No, that's not with me. You go to the psychologist. I don't do that." And I go to the psychologist, and the psychologist, "No, you go to the physician," and so on. We need that, but sometimes we go so radical. We are just, how about maybe, in a physician, I could go a little more than that. I would, hear her or him for a little while. I'm a nurse, but I'm not a doctor, but I could go more than that. And then I just don't have to be a doctor 100% of the time in that moment, in the way of curing the body. There's the spirit as well we need. And we just separate things. And we are, I'm a carpenter, I'm a painter, and so on. That we see sometimes, I see in my experience, I'm a carpenter in construction. And then we were working homes. All people have problems, different ways, expressing in different facets. And then we see that some people start talking to us, expressing some problem that they don't bear anymore. They want to vent some way. And then we start talking, and then we give some advice, and you feel like, well, you're a carpenter, how you know that? How would have such ideas? That they think I'm just do woods all my whole day and night, and just thinking about woods and construction. That how we thinking apart from one another. And we say, you know what, I'm doing for neuroconsultants, the Spiritist Center. We have an institution. You say, well, They feel like, we are from another world. You're just a carpenter, you're not a doctor, we're not social psychologists, and so on. How you can do it? How we think that we separate from one another? We have those jobs, physician, astronomer, and so on, but above all this, we are spirits that we need to interact with one another and feel the experiences with one another. That's how we feel more. We should, connect more and to decrease this separateness that divides us. That's when we got to be more wishful to one another. And this question in the Spirit book is very interesting. He says, would there be anyone whom because of his or her position could not do good? No, there is not one person who cannot do good. Only the selfish does not find a way to prize good deeds. All that is needed is to interact with others to find occasions to do good. And there is not a single day of existence that does not offer to those who are not blinded by selfish and opportunity to do good. And what supports this idea as well, that the Spirit says everyone has something to give, is that the same thing that I read before, giving and helping are wired into us and our brains, typically rewards us with feelings of joy and satisfaction. Even our bodies are wired of it. We don't have the excuse, even, science supporting us, you don't have the excuse not to stay by yourself and not go around doing something. We can say, I don't want it, but I cannot say that I don't have nothing. That's something that, seems ridiculously in our days. That's what... and people that, say that they don't, they are ashamed or they think that they are limited to do good. They say, it's not that I do not care. I'm just sure you could find somebody better than me to do it. We see that all the time, right? We ask people, we ourselves do that, there's somebody else more prepared than me to do good, to do that. And we see here all of us are important and we have potentials to spread around doing charity. And it is very important to give. It's very important to give. And to receive as well. But we see here that the act of receiving is an act of charity too. And another little story, very simple, that taught my heart. It didn't happen with me. But in some way, it reflects the truth. There was a friend. He would go to a Brazilian bakery every day, mostly. And he told me this story. He would go there every day, and he knew a homeless, a beggar, that would go there most every day too, and ask him for a cup of coffee. That he would pay him a cup of coffee. And he went doing that maybe for months and so. But there was a day that he was there. And then came the beggar or the homeless, say. There he was expressing so much joy in his face. He was happy. He saw him, coming, and he thought from himself, he told me, I thought he would be on in the lottery. And such expression he has in his face. And he thought, selfishly, or maybe he would, share with me. Because I have been giving him, share with me a cup of coffee for some months. Now it's my turn to receive. And then he just came in and approached him happily and said, oh, you know what? Pick a cup of coffee. I have money today to pay you a cup of coffee. And my friend just, he didn't understand the mechanism, and he was unconscious of the moment for sure. And he told him, no, I don't need you to pay my cup of coffee. I have my money. I work. And that man turned out so sadly at that moment and just turned back and went away. he never seen him anymore. Imagine. I would feel in my way, we imagine maybe there was a moment of turning to something else that that beggar needed. He would feel maybe my friend will receive the cup of coffee. The beggar will feel, I'm something valuable. Today I gave a cup of coffee, but tomorrow I'll give another one. And after tomorrow I'll give another two. And maybe he would grow up. Who knows? But my friend, by denying the opportunity for other one, maybe because of proud, I'm the one, I work, I have money, I don't need you. Maybe to protect himself, maybe not to feel as beggar or something that is in need. Is that sometimes what we do in our lives? Sometimes we reject help from others because we want to feel empowered. We don't want to think that ourselves we need. We feel sometimes humiliated. Sometimes we go through hard situations in our lives and we don't ask for help. Sometimes people say, I hate to ask help for people. I would give whatever people ask me, but my turn, when I need to ask help, I don't. And they ask God. God help me. But God sends somebody, and she denies or he denies. And because of pride sometimes. And sometimes we'll be like that beggar. He or she will be given the opportunity for other one to give. That, we should rethink the way we receive and we give. Sometimes we just have to receive. It's our time to receive. There's no humiliating in this. We need one another. We are not self-sufficient. The only self-sufficient that came to earth was Jesus. He was the only one that was self-sufficient. All of us need one another. Why not asking help, receiving help? It's not that we're going to abuse people. You have to have the honest conscience. For sure, we see abuse here and there. That's not our case for sure. But how about receiving? We give an opportunity for people to do good. And that's important for them too. And I see in my experience, when I give things for people that they feel like, humiliating, then they don't feel help, our reaction is different. When we, help other people in some way that they feel grateful, they give importance to us, to the act, and respond back happily, we feel different. I was kind of helpful to that person because she's giving back to me. At the same time, it's going back. When we just receive, because we are at the end, we can't bear anymore, and we respond back. Oh my God, the other person feel humiliated too. The other person feel it too. Something should be very simpler in our lives. That's how things flows much better. And Jesus gave the example. Like I said, he was the one self-sufficient in this world. But he gave the example too. Once the gospel says that he one time went to visit Simon, the publican, because they invited him to test him there about his knowledge, and the people would thought, Jesus won't go to dinner with these sin people that was the publican at that time. But indeed, Jesus went to their house to dinner with them and gather, the publicans. But happened there was a woman in their home. There was the woman in their home. The historian says that maybe she was a prostitute because of the signs of the story tells, but nobody can say that she was for sure a prostitute. She was that woman in need that was in their home at that night. And then Jesus came and was greeted by the hoster and went to conversation. And then Jesus seated on the sofa or in a bench or, in the place there. And then came this woman. She came from somewhere in the house. She came and seated in the feet of Jesus. And started washing the feet of Jesus with her tears and her hair. And Jesus did nothing. Just let her do that. Gently Jesus waited. And then she later brought, in the process, brought the perfume, alabaster, I don't know what we call it in English, the greatest one that she had, and perfume the feet of Jesus. And someone, how can you accept something from such a sinful people? And Jesus replied to him, what did you give me when I entered here? You didn't kiss me. You didn't invite me for dinner. You didn't do this. And she, quite contrary, sat at my feet and washed my feet with her tears and offered me the greatest perfume. Jesus was self-sufficient. He could have said, you know what, I can help you instead. I know your problem. I can forgive your sins. Don't do that. I can, with my mind, you know, I'm the architect of this planet. I can heal my feet, as you don't know. I'm the man here. But he instead, he just said quiet, because he realized that was very important for her. And we don't know the story of her life later on, but she would remember it for her life. And she would, you know, maybe she was really a prostitute. Maybe she thought, now I'm useful. I wash the feet of Jesus. I can do more. Jesus was that. One of the examples that Jesus was put himself to receive. If Jesus gave us the example, why not us? You know, the weak people, we are in relationship with one another. That's what produces, you know, that exchange of I would say, favors or acts toward one another. I always keep just some. I'm the end here. Just 1 minute. I have one slide here. It is only by the act of charity that infinite delights can be created for each one in the future. Yet, even while you remain exiled on earth, it will be your consolation. It's one of the things that we could remind, doing little good. I have more slides, but we have no time for go over them. But I will come back to the first slide here just to finalize with this. That's this. Everyone of us can picture this. There was the passage you just multiplied the five bread and 2 fishes to feed thousands of people. And there was this guy Jonah. Some of the history says he was in the middle of that crowd, and Jesus, after been preaching the whole day for the people, thousands of people, they felt hungry. And Jesus sent Peter among the people, asking if somebody had something to offer. And Jesus went around asking, he said somebody has something to give, please to share and so on, because everybody feel hungry. And then come up this guy. But he had begged for those breads. And he had just 5. He was kind of homeless guy. And he approached Jesus and offered his 5 breads and 2 fishes for Jesus. And Jesus multiplied it for thousands of people to feed all those people. Nobody believed that Jesus could do it. It's just somebody who just need 1 bread. That God will multiply it. Nature itself will multiply it. If Jesus, that's the example that Jesus, his life gives to ours, his example. We don't need to have the food for whole people, but we had just 5 bread in that example. That will help a lot. And Jesus gives another example here that, just to wrap this talk, Jesus spent the whole day preaching the bread of the soul. But at the end of the day, he gave as well the bread for the body. It means that we have to combine both charities, that what the Spiritist teaches us. The charity of the body and charity of the spirit, which is the material charity and the spirit charity. And as the Leo said in the beginning, Spiritism is spirituality. It's not the Spiritism itself stimulates us to do good. It does. But Spiritism itself is a charity itself. Spiritism does so much charity to us. We feel, because Spiritism reveals us what we have been doing in the past, our difficulties, our weaknesses, and doesn't condemn us. Doesn't tell us that you go to hell and this and that. Spiritism is charitable itself. It's not that it stimulates us too, but it's charity itself because we feel valuable when we study Spiritism, because we feel that we're sons and daughters of God. Our time is over, so thank you.